The ball drop in New York City's Times Square marked the start of many New Year's resolutions, but chances are many of those goals may have already been abandoned. 2018 surveys showed almost 80% of people broke their New Year's resolution by the end of January. Some people we spoke to in New York City told us why.
The hardest part of maintaining my resolution usually is sticking to it the week after January 1st.
I've had to restart my New Year's resolution 4 times at least.
I also made a goal of meditating like 10 minutes a day, and I haven't even started that, so that one is currently failing.
I feel like fear and maybe habits and like perpetual habits is what keep people from actually realizing their resolutions.
They're hard to keep, but every now and again you should keep them.
Habits expert James Clear, author of the New York Times bestseller Atomic Habits, is here to help us get back on track. Good to see you again.
Yes, good morning.
I like that we're making a habit of seeing you here. Why do people, 80%, why do they fall off the beam so fast?
Yeah, so when I wrote Atomic Habits, I kind of had 2 main goals. One is like, how do we make habits easy? And the second one is, how do we make habits stick? And this time of year, a lot of people are kind of feeling that second one. You know, you feel like, oh, I don't have enough willpower, or maybe if I just had enough discipline, then I would stick to it. But I think that this is maybe a surprising thing, that a lot of the time people feel like what they lack is motivation, but what they really lack is clarity. So one of the first things you can do is come up with a specific plan for when and where to implement the habit. Sounds simple, but I will meditate for 1 minute at 7 a.m. in my kitchen, or I will go for a run at 6 p.m. at this park. If you know exactly when and where a habit will occur, you're more likely to take advantage of that opportunity when it arises.
So if you don't define it correctly, you're setting yourself up for essentially failing.
I think that's right, and defining it is not just the time and the place and the location, but also the size. You know, a lot of the time we take on a habit that is much too big, and that's totally normal. You get ambitious at the beginning of the year. I'd like to read 30 books a year, or I want to, you know, work out for 45 minutes 4 days a week or whatever. But even if you start in a very small way, read 1 page, meditate for 1 minute, write 1 sentence, it doesn't sound like a lot in the beginning, but that's okay, because the main point is, can I reinforce being that kind of person? Can I show up, even if it's in a small way?
But you could make the argument that what's even harder than keeping a habit is what happens when you break it, right? And coming back on and picking it back up again. What are some tips for people to pick that habit back up, even if they miss a day or 2?
Sure. So, you know, a lot of people will start out strong at the beginning of the year. You do something for 2 weeks or 17 days or whatever it is, and then you fall off the wagon. And at that point, I think the mantra to keep in mind is never miss twice. We're not talking about you don't have to be perfect all the time, but when you do fall, make sure that you try to get back on track as quickly as possible. This is particularly true with diets, right? Diets seem to be very all or nothing. People start a diet, they do it for 6 days, then they go to happy hour, or their friends want to get a drink or something, and they think, oh, why bother, I broke it. But I think the never miss twice idea is like, well, I wish I hadn't broke my diet, but never miss twice, so let me make sure I get back and have the next meal be a healthy one.
You encourage people to use a commitment device. What is that?
Commitment devices can be a really powerful way to get over either procrastinating on a habit that you've been avoiding, or just kind of locking in your future behavior. So, quick example. Let's say that you go to bed and you think, all right, tomorrow's the day, I'm going to wake up at 6 a.m., I'm going to go for a run. But then 6 a.m. rolls around and your bed is warm, it's cold outside, and you're like, well, maybe I'll just press snooze instead.
Yeah.
But if you rewind the clock and you text a friend that day before and you say, hey, let's meet at the park at 6:30.
Yes.
Well, now you have a commitment device, because 6 a.m. comes and it's still cold outside and your bed is still warm. But now if you don't go to the park, you're a jerk because you leave your friend there. And commitment devices are little strategies like that. In this case, it was social accountability that help lock in the future behavior and reduce the odds that you procrastinate.
My resolution was to exercise, and in my head I say every damn day. And my thing was not to focus on the goal, not to lose weight or run a marathon or anything like that. I just said and get on just for 10 minutes. And then I end up spending a little bit more time, for instance, on the treadmill. And I kept saying to myself, create this habit. How long does it take us to create a regularized behavior?
So it's a good question. It's a very common question. The range, you know, sometimes you hear 21 days or 30 days or whatever. There was one study that showed that 66 days was about the average amount of time. But even there, it was, you know, a couple weeks for an easy habit all the way up to a few months for a difficult habit. But that question, how long does it take to build a habit? I think there's like a deeper assumption behind it, which is, well, how long until it's easy? Or how long until I don't have to stop, how long until I don't have to work hard anymore? I think the true answer, the honest answer is, how long does it take to build a habit? Forever. Because once you stop doing it, it's no longer a habit.
You say one of the things in your book, forget about goals, focus on systems instead.
I think that this kind of encapsulates what you had just mentioned a moment ago, like, oh, I want to show up every day. You're really focused on the system of the behavior, the habits and processes that lead to the outcomes you want, not the goal itself. So it's so easy to get wrapped up in, did I read 50 books? Did I lose 20 pounds? What is the outcome? But really, the focus in the beginning should be, did I show up?
My fallback is that there's always a Jewish New Year as well. So didn't work in January, I got September.
Sometimes it feels like you've made the habit when you miss not doing it. So the one page that you read, when you don't do it, you feel like, oh, I miss not doing that.
That can be one way to define what a habit is, right? At some point, a behavior becomes so easy that it's more work to not do it than to do it. And so reading one page, writing one sentence, things like that pull you in because they feel so silly or simple. It's like, well, it'd be silly to not do this.
All right, well, we'll have you back soon enough, and we will all, of course, be keeping up with our habits from
September.
Yes.
Rosh Hashanah.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.